My wife and I were both raised in a little town south of Youngstown called Boardman, Ohio. When I was 6 years old, my father built us a new house in Boardman, and we moved into it when I was in the 6th grade, and went from grades 1 through 12 in the same school, and so did Marilyn. We both went to the same school. It was a long building, and we went 1 through 12. I was active in sports in junior high and so forth, and sandlot football around the neighborhoods. And it's just the way that the kids were then, I guess. But I did get active in junior high and was president of the student council. Boardman High School was very lucky. We had a lot of good-looking young ladies that went to school also. And I enlisted in the Coast Guard and spent 4 years there. 2 years in the States and 2 years overseas in Asia. Was probably a 4-year time period in my life where I grew up. When I got discharged in 1956, I came home with the first 1956 MGA that was in the United States. I brought it in through Tokyo to San Francisco. And that introduced me to a whole new world of sports car racing and names like Roger Penske. Anyway, I went back to college and decided to go into engineering school at Youngstown State University, and got out of there 5 years later.
But what I was going to say is that, that I call Ron, and those of you who know Ron, he likes to talk, he's outgoing, and so I asked him to go over a few things that I could discuss with, when I had this interview. I wanted to be able to talk a little bit about him, and he's 82 years old, so obviously there was a long history to go over. And I said after an hour and a half, after we got out of the 8th grade, I decided I couldn't keep doing it.
That's so true, too. That is so true. God.
So, that's...
He picked me up on the corner of his street. I was waiting for the bus to go downtown, and he went to school downtown, so it was on the way. And I think he picked me up every day after that. But the 2 days later, we had our first date at the Canfield Fairgrounds. The race, he was active in the racing, and so we went to the races, and then he bought me ice cream afterwards, which was a little different for most of my dates. And so we had a whirlwind romance, got married about 7 months later, and within 5 years, we had 5 kids, so 5 daughters. And so we had a lot of fun.
When you meet Ron, one thing comes to mind immediately. How could a guy like that have 5 such beautiful daughters? But then you meet Marilyn, and it's a little easier to understand it. So, right?
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful guy. Wonderful guy.
And we were staying out on the beach on Siesta Key, and I said, why don't we just forget this job stuff and enjoy this place? But as it was, he had 3 interviews in Sarasota, and when we got home, Ted Watson called him about a week or 2 after we were home and offered him a job. So we had met them when, I had even met them when we were down there. So it was sort of a natural.
And I have to tell you, it's been a very wonderful 45-year friendship. And we enjoyed their 5 daughters because we had toddlers, and they were wonderful babysitters. And they were so nice to be around. They were just very, very pleasant young ladies, too.
Ron probably has four qualities that I think every man would like to have. He's a very devoted Christian. He is a excellent father, a family man. He worked hard. He was a great employer to work for, I know. And of course, he was a community, civic-minded person. What else is there in life other than those 4 things? If you excel in those 4 things, what else do you need? You know, and Ron did in all of them. He really did.
So when I came down to work for Mr. Watson, he had an estimator. We were a small company. He had an estimator that was 64 and a half years old and was about to retire. So that's where I came into the picture. And the first job that I estimated, I also took it to the field to build, and that was the Payne Park Auditorium that is still standing quite well today.
My wife still today, every now and then I'll get in a pickle on something and she'll look at me and she'll say, call Ron Royal.
I fell into high-rise estimating, estimated 6 high-rises that I got, and project managed 6, and they were all in the county of Sarasota. And it was like going back to school and getting a doctorate degree. It was just a fantastic education in construction. After the gentleman that was working for Mr. Watson that was supposed to retire was working for then Paver. He ended up with Paver Development, and one day as I was leaving one of my projects on Siesta Key, I saw this gentleman and we waved each other down, had a cup of coffee, and he was older then, of course, and he said, Ron, these guys are awfully nice that I'm working for, but they're killing me. You need to come and take my job. So about 4 months later, I negotiated a contract with the Pavers and stayed there for a few years and worked for them. And we were turning out a lot of apartments and villas and condos and all kinds of things. And they were a great company to work for. 2 brothers working as a great team. Then I started my own company. I kept on getting nudged by a fellow called Jim No, had a construction supply company here on 12th Street, and Jim kept on bugging me to start my own company. So I finally did, partway through a bottle of Jack Daniels. And
They were wonderful neighbors, and you know, I think somebody will probably tell you that they have 5 children and 16 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. So he's got a huge family that he's taken care of while he was doing his business and his community service work.
Which reminds me of one thing. One board that Ron did not go on was Planned Parenthood. For some reason, it just didn't seem to fit. I don't know, but as
That's
far
probably
as
the only one he went on.
I think it was. Yeah, come to think of it.
We had decided that he needed something to do all the time. And if you've ever had a boat, you know that's the answer. So we had a 47-foot Chris Craft at that time, and we loved it, but it just wasn't livable. And so we started out looking for a boat, and we drove up, went up to Washington, D.C. as far as that, and down to Naples, and finally we found the right one, and we lived on our boat then for almost 3 years. It was great fun.
after I sold my construction company in 1989, we were on the boat and so forth, but we were still looking to keep busy, and we both got into volunteering for the Southwest Florida chapter of the American Red Cross, and we both stayed there for over 10 years. It was probably as interesting, not financially fulfilling, of course, but we weren't looking for money. We were looking to do what we could do just to keep busy and enjoy our life and be of some benefit to the people in the community that needed help. Community involvement in the Red Cross is quite unique. Not only do they give money, but they give a lot of service that we don't know about, that we don't hear about. There are a lot of people involved in giving their time to the Red Cross in order that people that need help can get it.
We took a trip from here up to North Carolina. It was one of those poker weekend deals that we took, and Ron and Marilyn went up with my wife and with me, and found out that he can't pass up a gas station if the gas price is less than it was at the last station he saw. And good thing we had a 5-gallon can with us, or we would have been waiting for the car to idle down to where it needed more gas. But I think we made 11 stops between here and Highlands, North Carolina, because he saw gas was cheaper.
I was chairman of the board of the Sarasota Memorial Hospital Foundation. I had been on the board for about 8 or 9 years. And I went in to see the then president, Charles Estel, and we called him Chick, and I told Chick that I'd sold my company. What are you going to do now, Ron? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't think I have to do anything. And he said, why don't you take my job?
Everybody's wanting you to take
Chick was 74 at that time.
Timing is
And
everything.
he said, I've been thinking of a way to retire, and you know what goes on here. You've been around 9 years, and since you don't have anything to do, why don't you take my job? And I said, I don't know that I can be a professional fundraiser. Anyway, came home and talked to Marilyn, and she didn't think it was a bad idea. She thought it might be good for both of us. So I told Mr. Estel, I said, if you talk to every member of our board, and if everybody gives you a thumbs up, I'll do it. I said, if everybody's not in favor of it, and they're more in favor of doing a search for your replacement, then I'll just step aside. Well, he came back 3 weeks later, and he said, you're hired. So I stayed with the Hospital Foundation for about 6 years.
I will tell you, I served with Ron on the Hospital Foundation Board, and Ron deserves a lot of credit for that, because the Hospital Foundation was a great organization, there's no question about it. But, you could kind of say it was in its infancy in those days, and they got Ron in as executive director, and he did a magnificent job. I like to think he put together a good board, notwithstanding the fact that I was on it. And he was also good at raising money.
Right.
He could always ask you for money. He's good at that, he's really good at that.
A little over a year ago, I was asked for if I might have any interest in doing something else in the way of a volunteer board in the community, and this had to do with the Pines of Sarasota Foundation. Anyway, this was an ask to serve on the Pines of Sarasota Foundation board, and so I said yes, I'm doing that, and gives me another outlet in the community to spend some time and energy in that direction. But it is in our future to make the Pines even bigger and better than it is today, and to provide more services to our growing senior population. You know, Sarasota County has the highest percentage of seniors over the age of 65 in all of the state of Florida. Somebody's doing something right in Sarasota County that makes people want to come here in their retirement.
Sue and I have one funny story we were talking about this morning about Ron, and I believe it was his 60th birthday, and Marilyn was trying to throw him a surprise party. And he had just had one of his knees done. And I guess he was feeling a little bit older that day, and he went and got his hair dyed. Came in looking like Elvis Presley. She immediately made him go back to the hair salon. And when he came home, all they could do was bleach it. When he came home, he was a bleached blonde.
I saw him walking in the door. I happened to be in my yard, and I saw him walking
He
in the
almost
door
missed his party.
bleached blonde hair, and I was quite surprised.
Yeah, the lucky dog story, I think that's Ron and Marilyn love dogs, and they always had dogs. And one day, this new dog shows up, and I asked Ron the name of the dog, and the dog's name was Lucky. And I said, well, how did you come up with the name Lucky? So Ron went to work on a Saturday morning. His office was down off of North Washington Boulevard, and he was there by himself. And about 10 o'clock in the morning, some little girl starts rapping on the door, and he looks out the side light, and obviously not threatened by a 10-year-old little girl, he opens the door, and she said, Mister, I need some help. There's a dog sitting out in the street. And so Ron walks out, and sitting on Washington Boulevard in the gutter is a little black dog. So he picks the dogs up and brings them back and says to the little girl, here's your dog. Well, Well, the girl said, it's not my dog. He said, I don't know whose dog it is. The dog's just sitting out there. I was worried it was going to get run over. So Ron takes the dog and goes to the vet and gets the dog checked out. And so he keeps the dog. So I said, well, how'd you come up with the name Lucky? He says, well, I named the dog Martha L. Washington because I found the dog on Washington Street and the L was for Lucky. And I thought to myself, how appropriate. I mean, here's this dog is sitting in the gutter on North Washington Boulevard on Saturday morning, and the next thing you know, the dog's living on Ladue Lane, going on Ron's boat with them for the next 10 or 15 years. And so that dog was very lucky, and I've been very lucky to be his friend, and our community's been very lucky to have Ron and Marilyn part of the fabric of this community for all these years.
And I had a lot of respect for Ron because he was honest, and you don't always see that in construction. So, but that was Ron, and I respected that.
This award tonight, I've watched other men and women achieve this award, and I've always been so proud to even have been invited to go and see the awards being given. Tonight, with Mary Fran Carroll being given the posthumous award, Mary Fran Carroll was just a fantastic lady with some great ideas what to do way out east at the juncture between our two counties, the Manatee and Sarasota, to bring it alive like she has. She was a great visionary. She was a very intelligent, very high personality type lady, just really straight up and always enjoyable to be around. And as deserving of this award as anyone could possibly be, she is it. And I appreciate the honor of being alongside her here tonight.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Good.
I would say this, that it's long overdue. I think that when I went through the list of things that Ron has done while raising 5 kids and having his own business and being involved in the foundation and the things that he's done, and to find the time to do the civic work that he has done. I mean, he was a very important player in Argus, and you know, Ron is what community service is all about, and I think it's wonderful that they're doing this for him. He richly deserves it. I couldn't be happier for him and Marilyn.
Well, I think Ron is a deserving person to receive this honor. He's been so active in the community for 50 years or whatever, and certainly does deserve it.
Oh, I certainly second that thought. He has been very active in the community and has done a lot of good things for Sarasota, and it certainly is a well-deserved award, I think.
Well, it's something certainly that he deserves. Argus recognized him. I was happy to get your call and hear that he had been selected this year. There's no one better deserving. There's been a lot of good people honored for this yearly award, but Ron is getting his due. He worked hard. He's been a pillar of the community for years, and I couldn't think of anybody that deserves it more that hasn't got it. It's really, really nice.
If Al were here, he would either be singing a song or telling a joke, but he would also let Ron know that he is so proud to have Ron receiving this honor, and that he was such a good friend for so many years.
He is certainly deserving of it. I told him it was not any too soon, because he certainly is a person to, well, no, you do. You deserve it.